For most of my adult life, I have preferred the cinema to the theatre, films to plays. In more recent years, however, that has begun to shift, and my appreciation of the very real differences between the two and the value of theatre has deepened and indeed challenged me. Cinema has always been, for me, more obviously immersive, allowing the perfect escape from the day-to-day and from my own concerns. Even the more serious topics addressed on celluloid can provide a kind of escapism, a chance to leave oneself behind for an hour or two before emerging back into the light, be that daylight or evening streetlight, and back to one's daily life. But over the last 5 years or so, attending a string of exceptional plays and productions particularly have made me appreciate far more the visceral and interactive nature of theatre, the live quality that creates a sense almost of danger, but also of opportunity, where the actors have no place to hide, and when the audience themselves have to be reached, and so become involved and implicated. An immediacy and a creativity which can last, I find, far longer in the memory and affect far deeper the mind and the heart. But why does theatre seem to be my theme this Easter day? Our gospel reading, with its dramatic account of the empty tomb, is from the Gospel according to St. John, the fourth Gospel. Back in the 1970s came the suggestion that it contained so many apparent asides and stage directions it could possibly have begun life as a kind of mystery play. But that's not the reason. The church today is obsessed, it would seem, with the idea of mission. Mission action plans are an annual requirement for parish churches. The word itself has to be shoehorned into any grant or job application these days. For my sabbatical time away last autumn, I was even asked to explain what missional imperatives would be fulfilled. So I was rather delighted this week to realize that in the New Testament, the word theatre appears twice as often as the word for mission, missio. Mind you, that's not saying much. Theatre appears twice and mission only once. But when it does appear, the word missio has a very different meaning and understanding to the 20th century reinterpretation of the concept that predominates today, now equated more with evangelism, and so mission has become the stick with which clergy and church council members are bludgeoned each week. But when the word missio does appear in the New Testament, it is about a specific sending by one individual, St. Paul, to the Gentiles, just as others are mandated to different errands and to different choices with different outcomes. The only universal command we find in Scripture in the New Testament comes from Jesus, is that we love one another, a command we have been reflecting on through the events and liturgies of this most holy week. So one universal command to love, and then within that and out of that, a question of how that might manifest in our own lives, and to what kind of errand or choice we might be charged with because of it. Perhaps dealing rather with generalities, I've come to think of mission, as it has evolved over the last 100 years or so, as parallel to me the cinema, the new interpretation of the word and talkies themselves sharing a birth decade. And if perhaps not cinema in general, then a film in particular. Because it's produced and created off-site, slick, technical, manufactured almost regardless of the multitude and variety of audiences before whom it is to be revealed. Films, rather than plays, lacking the immediacy and intimacy of cast and particular audience that is always there in a theatre production. The one feeding off the other, changing and adapting in the light of the other. All shared, and so every performance nuanced and different. I saw recently Bartók's opera, The Duke Bluebeard, and in the prologue, the narrator asks the question, where did this all happen? Was it within or outside? Is it the curtain that opens, or is it going to be our eyes? And finally, he pronounces before the music begins, the curtain of our eyelids is opened. So the invitation and the challenge to us, it seems to me, this and each Eastertide, is to celebrate that risen and that rising love. Allow it to penetrate deeply, to ask what it means for us, for our lives, and for those we love, and for the world around us that so surely needs to hear the message of God's love and to experience that love made manifest by us in our turn. So this gospel story we mark today is not a story to be observed or watched for a while, and then for us to return blinking into the light of everyday life, having escaped for a while and thankful for the distraction. The drama of God's self-giving love is a universal one, but enacted for each and every one of us personally in the here and now. It all happens without, of course, but also within. The curtain of eyes are raised today, and we surely can see afresh and anew. So may that rising love that we have come together to celebrate be ours ever more deeply in the coming days. And may we find how we are called and mandated to live it out in the week and in the years to come. For Christ is risen. Alleluia, alleluia. He is risen indeed. Alleluia, alleluia.